welcome, ladies and gentlemen of Twitch TV, to 4th IB's coverage of Friday Night Fights. With me today, I'm joined with Barton and Eason. Barton, how are you doing, first of all?
I'm doing very well, Morgan. How are yourself?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for asking. It's good to hear that you're doing well too. And Eason, my friend, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Great, that's good to hear. Okay, so for those of you that were here last week, you already know the deal and you know how this is going to go down. But for the people who are a bit or new to seeing this or who don't quite remember how we did things last week, we're going to break down just exactly what you can expect from the show here tonight. So 4th IB is an ArmA Milsim group who we are all a part of here today. And we're bringing you the coverage of an event called Friday Night Fights. This is going to be a PvP, what's the word I'm looking for? A PvP for fun thing with a bunch of different ArmA units where they all sort of organize themselves and they go about trying to complete certain objectives. It's always good fun to watch. It's always good fun to participate in, and bringing you the coverage is something that we're really happy about that we're able to do as well. Barton, is there anything you think that the people out here need to know about Friday Night Fights?
Well, I think you said most of the points. Friday Night Fight is a community-led thing. It brings a load of different ArmA-free communities together, ranging from Milsims to just general groups that play with each other for a bit of fun. It's generally just fun-focused, but there's limited slots, and that's why we've got jobs here, Morgan. We're bringing the coverage to the people that can't get in. I've been on it myself, and it's been a great blast. What about you, Eason?
I myself have been on it quite a few times. I think I've only missed two of the ones we've had the opportunity to do. It's very fun, and it's just something a bit different. I don't think I've really seen it before in the ArmA Free community, having this high-scale PvP, low-level milsim.
Yeah, I agree. And I guess then one thing we could say is thank you to the Friday Night Fights team for allowing us, one, to participate in this great community event, Friday Night Fights, and another, thank you for allowing us to have our own coverage of it as well, as we are doing here now. So big thank you to Dingo and the Friday Night Fights team. So let's move on then and talk a little bit about you guys. The stream may not know who you guys are. So first question then over to Barton. Barton, who are you within the 4th? What was it that brought you to joining the 4th? What was it that stood out? And then what is it that you do on a sort of day-to-day within the 4th IB?
For me, for me going to joining 4IB, it's quite a little bit of a boring story. I literally put into Google ArmA free Milsim, and it was the first result. It's quite simple. So I joined off there, and I was actually in the unit twice. I joined originally, had a good stayed for 6 months, but I was quite young at the time. Didn't really have the time commitments because I was still in school. But later on I came back, and now I found myself predominantly being within the Zeusing element of 4IB. Now the Zeusing element, you've got to be devious-minded sometimes. You've got to be creative in a ways that you have to imitate an enemy force to produce that Milsim environment. Our job as Zeus is to provide entertainment to the player base, but we do so by imitating civilian populations, enemy forces, etc., etc. And we've got to get in that mindset. What could we do to the player base which is fair but also enjoyable? And it's that being creative and doing some devious things now and then is always a good blast. But generally, that's what brought me to doing Zeusing, and it's what's kept me into Zeusing for coming up to 2 years now, in terms of being in the 4IB. Back to you.
Fascinating to hear. Thank you for giving such a good explanation there. I enjoyed listening to that, and it's good to hear from someone in the Zeusing team. It's not somebody not a team that the majority of the unit is very familiar with. But it's good to know that you are people too as well. So thank you very much for sharing that. Eason, then, let's move on to something about you. And you mentioned that you've done a bunch of these Friday Night Fights
Yes.
nights. Do you want to go into a bit of detail about these and how you found them in the past and how you feel you've performed in the past?
For most of the Friday Night Fights, generally, from my perspective on the ground, it has been a very mixed bag in terms of how well we were doing. So on some nights, you'll find that as the fourth and as the whole team as a whole, we may end up completely dominating the other team, whereas on other nights, we'll end up basically all going down before anything even happens on the ground. There are lots of roles within FNF as a whole. My favourite one at the moment is either fire team leader. So that is the person that will be leading a group of 6. So it's similar to a section leader in our 4IB structure. And my other favourite role is the automatic rifleman. So they're the guys that obviously have the big gun.
What a surprise.
Exactly. And Eason, just for the people of the chat, a couple of them have asked why they aren't able to see you. Is it because you're part of the the OPSEC, or is it something else like that? What's going on?
I think
it's a fairly simple answer of I don't have a webcam, and I have a very strange concentration face.
You sure, Eason? I thought it was wash day. I thought you didn't have anything clean. You're probably butt naked, as far as I'm aware.
I might be.
Might be, might not be. But you'll never know, because he hasn't got a webcam at the moment.
Exactly. Maybe we'll get that sorted out in the next time, but for now, that's the reason for all of those wondering in the chat. Let's talk a little bit about Cromwell II, the fourth upcoming operation that we're going to do. A coin operation, meaning counterinsurgency, for those unfamiliar. Let's go with Barton first. As a member of the Zeus team, what is it exactly that you're looking forward to in Zeusing Cromwell II, and what are some of the challenges that you think you'll come across?
Definitely a very good question, and I have been talking to this with my friends in the unit before. Generally, whenever we go into any deployment, we are, especially for this coming coin, we go in with a certain plan. We're going to look for a certain style, and it's like a stage-by-stage business or structure per se, how the deployment goes. With it being counterinsurgency, a main aspect will definitely be within the civilian interactions themselves. And what do I mean by that? Is that as we work with J3 and as Zeus team works as a team throughout, unlike some of the other things you can do in 4IB, we work as a team and we record every time you talk to a civilian. So we try to reproduce a dynamic relationship with the civilians there. So you go to a certain town in this deployment and talk to someone, that same person, if he's a local, will still be in that town. So that's always a main thing within coin deployments, is that you can develop relationships, dynamic relationships with stuff on deployment, which makes 4IB deployments quite unique as far as my experience goes from Milsim and from various communities. Further to that, this is going to come in with a new style. It's going to come in, as far as I'm aware, early 2012. That's the sort of aspect we're going in for this counterinsurgency. So it might be more combat focused. You'll be facing a hardened enemy, and it will be quite a slog at the start, as far as I'm aware. So that's the structure, that's the plan, and we'll see how the players deal with that situation and see if they come out on top.
Excellent. So quite a lot to look forward to from both sides then with that. Eason, I'll ask you the same question. What are you looking forward to in the upcoming coin operation, and what are some challenges you think you might find yourself in?
Well, the thing I like about coin is that it's not constant combat, and that's one of the things that I very much find appealing about these kind of ops, is that as an infantryman on the ground, which is my current role, we're going to be basically walking around, and we could spend a whole night without taking contact, although that's pretty unlikely, or you could end up fighting the entire time. It's that slight level of what could be happening tonight, which makes it very interesting to play coin operations. With the challenges I'll be facing in particular, as a pointman, the most common thing that I'm probably going to be dealing with is I've trodden on ID. That I'm very likely to spend most of my night unconscious because I've messed up numerous times by treading on things that I shouldn't be treading.
I have nothing to do with that. You can't look at me. Actually, you can. I've got a webcam on. Damn. Forgot about that.
Well, in that case then, Eason, how do you think it compares to a more conventional operation then, where you are fairly certain what kind of tasks you'll be doing over a night?
Well, The main difference is obviously you don't know what you're doing. So on the main operations, you'll be sat there, you'll get a briefing, and you know where the enemy is, who you're shooting at, and what weapons they'll have. Whereas if you go into a coin op, you could be talking to Jamsheed, and he seems like a very nice bloke. Then he'll walk around the corner, come back round with an AK, and then half your section's down. It's just that in coin, anyone could be an enemy, or anyone could be even on your side. As in, people will sometimes take up arms and fight the enemy, even though they look like and are wearing the same clothes as the enemy. It's a very dynamic setting compared to the traditional combat that we've seen on previous deployments.
Yeah, cool. Okay, then another question that we'll go for to Barton this time. So similar question to one that I asked earlier, but to Eason. This time we'll go with Barton. Your experience with FNF, how has it been? If you found it so far?
So I've been on one Friday night fight myself, and I jumped straight into the fray. I went straight for a squad leader role, and obviously we lost the first round because I was not there. I joined in the second and third, and we obviously won after that due to my prime leadership. That's top quality. But on a serious note, jumping straight into it is one of the best things you could do with Friday Night Fight. You always want to step up, get into those new positions, which you really haven't really done in other scenarios. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. Squad leading was especially enjoyable when all the other squad leaders are dead. So you basically get a promotion at that level. So all in all, Friday Night Fight is you can get into some properly tense situations when you're fighting. Reference last week, that was the third round, and it came down to literally fire teams fighting each other, which was thoroughly enjoyable, and it went either way throughout the night. So those situations can only be made by Milsim, some plans made from a Milsim environment, and obviously the players in there making it PvP. So it's a great situation to be in, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Excellent. Let's go with some expectations then. Obviously, we aren't sure what's coming up exactly, but how do we feel that Fourth is going to be in these upcoming events, and how do we feel that the action of Friday Night Fights is going to unfold over the rest of the night? We'll go with Eason first.
I think tonight's looking to be quite a good one. The server's already full, and I think they're about to start slotting. Yeah, I think it's definitely looking to be an interesting one. You got all the usual players, and during the warm up there, I definitely saw some new people as well. So it should be a bit of a mix of seeing the more new units trying to find their feet, and then the regular units doing what they always do.
Excellent. And Barton, same question.
Can I get a repeat of the question? Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So how do you feel that the Fourth is going to be doing tonight in terms of the Friday Night Fight, and how are you feeling in terms of the action that we're going to be in?
Right. So for the Fourth, it's just gonna, because they come out our conventional deployment, which is mainly player versus environment, AI being the environment. They fight in a very different way than players do. So that's one aspect you always got to consider. Most Milsim groups play against environment AI. We do a little bit differently in the Fourth. We play against what we call enhanced AI. So sometimes they are Zeus controlled to try to imitate more lifelike forces. Because anyone playing against AI in ArmA 3 knows this, that AI fight a lot differently than players do. And seeing some of the newer units, and especially our unit, try to adapt to that, because we don't know if these guys are fresh to Friday Night Fight. Because the sign-ups, we're taking how many people? 180 plus people in our unit, and condensing them down to a small team to go on the night. You never know whether or not they've been on before. So realistically, seeing how they adapt to the different way that players fight compared to the AI fight in ArmA 3 would be very challenging, but also very interesting.
Yeah, well put. Before we get into it then, I think we should probably go to a quick break with we show you the trailer for Cromwell II, get you hyped up about what's up to come for the 4th IB, and what kind of stuff people can expect if they're thinking about maybe giving the 4th IB a try, and and maybe to give a bit more context around what exactly is meant by a coin operation. So We'll be back very shortly after playing this trailer, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to 4th IB's coverage of Friday Night Fights with myself, Morgan, Barton, and Eason. Hope you all enjoyed that trailer for Cromwell II and were as hyped as we are to get into it. Starts tomorrow, so for those of you in the 4th who are on Saturdays, I hope that you're very looking forward to tomorrow. It's going to be a good one from some of the things I've seen as well. I'm very excited for it. While we were having that intermission, there was the team started slotting into their positions for the first round of Friday Night Fights. So Eason, I believe, is going to go through some of the people, what roles they've slotted into here for first round.
Yeah. So what I'm seeing right now is that the 4IB have been put on Op 4, which are currently going to be defending this round. Right now, our leader of our squad is Brooke, and we currently don't have any team leaders going in. Yeah, so basically everyone's just about finished slotting up now. Barton, if you would like to explain the difference in structure.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to jump in here. As you can see, 4IB is it's a British Milsim. So you've got the ICs and the 2 ICs as part of technically the fire teams here. But in terms of the slots themselves, they are on American style. So as you can see at the top, you've got the squad lead and the squad medic, and that's one group. So similar to like a platoon works, you got the sections and you got the platoon HQ, and it works similar to that. So you got the squad leader, and then you got the team leaders, and you can see how 4IB's adapted their British style to the American slot system here. So they've abandoned necessarily the team leader slots, kept the IC slot at the top, and a 2IC must have slotted in somewhere within the primary roles of the fire team, not just the team leader slots. And trying to adapt systems to what they're used to is a very good way to keep everyone comfortable and keep everyone performing well. I'm familiar with the American slotting squad system because that's what I did from an old Milsim, and it's got certain advantages and disadvantages. And luckily now they've managed to adapt it to themselves and their style. So we'll see if that pans out well throughout the round, not deployment. Back to you, Morgan.
Yeah, thank you very much for breaking that down. And yeah, I think it's a very good point that you made about how the Fourth aren't so familiar with this system per se, but they've done a very good way of keeping it relatively familiar for themselves, while still, embracing the new, the American system and the American way of doing things. It does look like we're receiving the mission file at the moment, so the briefing will be coming in very shortly. So we're going to turn ourselves down and listen into the briefing that comes in and see if we can try and get any juicy information before we load into the game.
Still need to sort out for teams. We still need to get
My
the right
bad.
numbers if there's still
I heard
stuff to do.
okay,
It's all right.
Jack, and like, oh, push us through.
No, I was asking if you'd heard because we'd asked you to move someone.
Oh, my bad.
I've just tried.
He got played.
I did. It was great.
That might
Sorry.
fuck the Orbat, by the way.
Hey,
First time doing this.
did everyone who RSVP'd get in yet, or?
No, we're still trying to get one more guy in from 4IB.
All right, I'm gonna hop out then.
Quick
Okay,
feedback, buddy.
Fucked up the Orbat, so just be aware of that, everybody.
Well, we still have to adjust teams. We need to go back to the lobby, right?
Yeah, we need to go back to the lobby because we still need to get the balance done. In regards to balance, all of Centaur that are in here are currently started up on Blue Fort, so the numbers. Basically, we need 3 volunteers from groups in Op 4 to jump across into Blue Fort. Doesn't matter who. If you fancy fighting against your own guys, just jump on into a spare slot over in Blue Fort.
Stop drawing on the fucking map. We can see who you are, and you will be kicked. So stop it.
4IB, get your guy, and there's a slot open right now.
He's already in.
Oh, already?
Last time you said you
I mean
started
to the room. The operations room. There's a slot open in the operations.
He's already in the operations room.
Okay, Drak, can you please slot me into... There you go, cheers. Right. Is everyone slotted? Are there still people to slot?
If I back out, I do believe it will push them through. So.
Yeah, no, you don't back up. Don't
That's
do,
why
do,
I can't slot you or
do
anything.
that. No, it's all cool. I managed to make it work. Zen. Okay, I need 3 volunteers who are on Op 4 to come across to Blue 4 to fight against your own guys. You don't even need to speak it. We just need the numbers to go up until it's about 65 versus 55.
Dream, there's your chance.
Slightly under. This is your chance to go fight your own guys. If you've always wanted to have it out for your own team and just see how you do against them, we only need 3 people to jump across.
I don't want to do that to them. I'd kill them all.
I mean, we could both do that to them.
Don't do it, Dream.
Accurate. No, the point is that Scandi.
Come on, we only need 3 people. Let's get it done, guys. We need to get this started.
Centaur.
Go on, Zeus.
Gentlemen, one should be talking unless you're saying that you're going to jump to the other team.
Echo 1, Baby Potato, Mass, aim at the ball, swoon up.
What's up?
You guys move across to Blue 4 to balance out.
Okay.
Cheers, Indigo. Right, Indigo, do you want to select you guys?
I'm good otherwise. I'm already set.
Awesome. Lord Lust, select you guys.
I've already pushed through into the mission map screen.
You can just hit cancel
Okay,
and then
right.
come back to the file screen and move.
Okay.
I just saw it before we loaded in. I think everybody's fine.
Okay, we Foxtrot might need a second person. Foxtrot 1. And you need a second platoon leader. Yeah, Strack, you want to jump up one to platoon leader?
Again, if I back out to.
Oh yeah, Roger.
done,
Okay, well
yeah.
you can take platoon lead. You'll be on the same radio
I'll
frequency.
just be from Sergeant. Yeah.
Sure. First platoon, you need a platoon leader.
If Delta 2 could move up to first platoon, please. Delta 2 Blue for.
Oh, have you out?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
Matt and Hunep.
The numbers are good. We don't need any more team switches.
Yeah, this is fine.
Blue 4 is set with first platoon.
There's like no space
Delta
in first
2,
platoon.
if you can move up to first platoon, please. We need some leaders over there. Oh, fair shirt. Thank you.
There's no space. There's
Okay, looks good.
Okay, awesome. Let's push through to our briefing.
We are already at the briefing. Turn fog.
Yeah.
Oh.
Tanko, if you could move up to platoon leader 2 for Blue 4, actually.
He's going to take platoon.
We're letting in. He'll take it. He's going to take platoon lead from his position.
Beautiful.
You say when you want the briefing.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, remember, let's keep the side chat appropriate, behaving, and nothing inappropriate. Okay, Tomfelt, take us away.
Alrighty, cache defense. Red 4 is defending 2 caches. Blue 4 is attacking. The only thing to note is that around one of the caches there is a couple little tripwire flares. They won't hurt you or anything, but they will make a little bit of smoke, noise, and a little bit of light. So just be aware of that. Otherwise, I think we are good.
Awesome. Blue 4 lead, do you have any questions?
Negative.
Op 4 lead, do you have any questions?
We're good.
Awesome. Then, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's push on into the first round of FNFEU.
Welcome back to 4th IB's coverage of Friday Night Fights. So we've just had the briefing. From what we heard, it's going to be a cash game mode. We're going to have attack versus defense with the red 4, so the op 4 being the defenders, defending 2 caches, and the blue 4 are going to be the ones attacking. So it does seem like the 4th IB guys are going to be the ones who are defending these caches at the moment. So, Barton, what do we think is going to be going down with how the map looks so far and what the objectives are?
Understood. Well, there's quite a lot of things to take into thought process here. You've got just the terrain themselves. So mostly the area they're fighting in terms of the caches, it's open ground, the majority of the approach from the blue 4 spawn. Also, one thing to note is for this game mode, it's attack versus defense. So the defenders have a numbers disadvantage compared to the attackers. So just comparing general numbers between each side won't give you an indication of how the match is going. Realistically, it'll be very interesting what Blue 4 does in terms of their approach. Will they take the high ground and try to thin the numbers before committing to an attack? Or will they try to come from the south and break into the urban area to get the first cache? There's also, you've got to know that they may not know exactly where the caches are. They may have a broad area rather than the exact positions where they are. So Red 4 has got to make quite a lot of decisions here. They've got to make decisions of where they're going to defend, how they choose to defend, and how much they're going to commit to each defense of each point. Because if they commit small groups to different areas, they're at risk of being defeated in detail, which is a military term of being able to defeat a larger enemy or smaller enemy in this case with superior numbers on a more concentrated level. So there's a lot of things to play, and creativity from the Red 4 will definitely help them here.
No, very nice. Eason, then, if we can have a look at some of the vehicles that the Blue Four are going to be operating with,
Alright,
maybe we can go over a quick sort of almost like a plan of attack. So, Eason, if you were in charge of Blue Four in this situation, what would your thought process be for trying to assault these two caches using the vehicles and the men at your disposal, trying to figure out what is it that you think you can get away with, some challenges that you might face given the terrain and how we can see the terrain going on here as well?
Well, the terrain that we're seeing right now is extremely hilly. The main routes of attack are going to be the roads, but that's obviously going to be fairly obvious. So, if I was the Blue 4 lead right now, I would make good use of the helicopters because they give you the opportunity to move your men undercover over uneven ground without them necessarily being as easy to predict as it would be with the cars. Because with the cars, there's only realistically one way they can go, which is this road around the south that enters into Agios Constantinos, however you pronounce that. Whereas with the helicopters, they can fly those nice and low, get them between the hills, and try and sneak some guys in. But obviously, there's still that risk. They're very noisy and they can be shot down extremely easily. Also, looking at these N113s or lunchboxes, they could be very useful when pushing into Agios from that southern road if they were to advance in convoy. However, again, there's also that risk that they're noisy and they're quite limited in terms of movement.
Excellent. So then with approximately 10 minutes left until we kick off the first round while the squad members are setting up, what is it then that, in terms of defending, we'll go with Barton if we can move the observer over to the defending areas. What would your thought process be in terms of setting up defense here? What do you think would be the safest or the most optimal solution? Would you try and maybe sacrifice one of the caches? Would you try and consolidate your forces like we've seen success last week on round 3? Or would you try and spread out, see what you can take, or maybe even send out more of a recon force and sort of see where the enemy are sending theirs and then act rapidly, responsively to the enemy as they come in?
Those are very good questions. With this, you've got to bear in mind these guys know a few things. They know they will know exactly where the caches are, right? But they also do know there are a numbers disadvantage, and that'll play a huge part into how they defend. They can also move out throughout their entire area of red, as you see on the map. They can move and develop set positions or hard points to defend from. Now, realistically, these guys need to understand that if they commit to small groups in large areas, Bluefall can capitalize on that if they have a good bit of reconnaissance. And then they can defeat those smaller groups and completely wipe out Red 4 in detail, as I was referencing earlier. Now, the thing that's really going to save them is creativity. This is one of the things in Zeus that I do a lot of defending. You've got to be devious-minded sometimes. So, as you referenced last week on round 3, at the start of the round, I was knocking over walls left, right, and centre to make sure that urban areas where they thought there was walls protecting them as they advanced, they were all knocked over, which made a killing gallery, which meant that we only had to defend from the south. Now, realistically, I'm hoping to see that from the Red 14. I think they need to rush out. They need to be leaving the spawn right now. They can't spend much time here. They need to use their advantage of being the defending team, get out, build their hard positions, and dominate the ground before Blue 4 get there. Because one tactics Blue 4 could use is rush down a certain point before they're able to put defenses on. But with that rush is going to be noticed because it can only be done by helicopter, and they won't have any vehicle support. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for creativity, and I'm looking for them even destroying entire buildings, trying to bait them into buildings and blowing those up to kill as many Blue 4 as possible to try to stem that numbers advantage. Back to you.
Thank you very much. I think you explained that really well. Able to get a good picture of the kind of tactics and goals in mind for the Op4 in terms of defending here. I guess then we'll go with maybe a skill. There we go. That's the word. A skill that you're not as familiar with in the assaulting side of things, Barton. If you were Blue 4, what would your thought process then be for trying to maneuver an assault going across the terrain you can see? As Eason mentioned earlier, with you making good use of the helicopters, as well as maybe sending along some of the roads, given the off-roading here will be quite difficult. But how do you find, in terms of planning an attack, especially from the Zeus perspective, how do you think that you would go about planning this assault here?
Well, as I was saying, they know they've got a numbers advantage. They may or may not have a vehicle advantage as well. Now, they won't have GMGs because that's just not allowed in Friday Night Fight. They'll have HMGs, which can pierce most hardpoint positions if they're set up in buildings. So what I would do, if I want to guarantee a solid calculated victory, is take a cautious approach. I wouldn't want to commit men with a rush with a 50-50 chance of it working, realistically, because I could lose my numbers advantage and still be liable to run into their traps from the defending aspect, right? So biggest thing for Blue 4 here is getting up that reconnaissance and then getting firing positions to harass any people still moving between the setup areas of the defense. So get the recce done, see where they've got their hard points, and then make a plan of attack, which will overwhelm with the numbers they have. Because quite a lot, as soon as someone gets into a nice, comfortable position in their like little sandbags, they'll bunk, put a cup of tea on, realistically, they don't want to move, right? So if they defend both points, and you can see that they're defending both points, so you can bring all your forces to one point, wipe that out with as little casualties as possible, because you're covering so many arcs of fire and encircling them. And then you can move on to having that, and again, another advantage for that second point. So I think getting good reconnaissance is key for Blue 4 this round.
And how do you suggest they go forward with this reconnaissance? Do you think it's something that they use the helicopters for instead of for transportation?
Absolutely.
Or maybe sending some of the vehicles across off-road or something different entirely?
I think a mixture of the two would be good. Having helicopters flying high above would try to, if Op4, get to waste some of their ammo and distract them from actually doing what they need to be doing. Right? It'll give a good image to Blue 4 as well of where they're taking fire from, and give a rough indication of where the ground recce teams should be moving to observe. Now, because there's lots of high ground here, Blue 4 can maneuver quite well and get these reconnaissance positions set up quite quickly, because they're some of the time staying at the same hill level or going down a hill to get to these positions. So one thing Op4 could do is they could anticipate this move and try to put up fire teams to ambush these reconnaissance teams coming out. But they may get distracted by flying helicopters. You never know. Back to you.
Yeah. Okay. With 4 minutes left then, Eason, I'll push this question to you. In terms of the Op4 and the reconnaissance they'll be doing, how do you think that they should try and set up to try and get as much information on what the Blue 4's plan is here?
I'm thinking try and take one of the central hills extremely early, which I think they may be trying to do with this Alpha 2 element, since that seems to be the best place to get a good look at everything. If they put 2 or 3 guys somewhere on one of these hills, hidden in these tree lines, they could be able to get decent info, whether it's just audio or actual visual, of where Blue 4 is actually going. Because one thing that is often neglected with reconnaissance is obviously sound is a big part of it, especially if Blue 4 is going to be operating as motorized and helicopter-borne force.
Yeah, good point to make there about the sounds and what you can hear. If we have a look at the map and the what's it called, the terrain around these positions, then are there any major strong points that you feel are crucial for the Op4 to defend? And essentially, if they are to lose any of these strong points, then they may as well just sack the cache.
Well, we've got to have a look at the area.
Well,
Ooh.
looking here, I feel like it's going to be extremely vital for Op4 to hold these hilltops because it doesn't matter how many guys you got down in this town. If they're constantly getting fired at by the entire team just sat up on this hill, then they're going to have absolutely no chance of actually holding that ground. If I was the Op4 commander, I'd try and get as many guys just spread out, small little teams in these hills, just creating strong points in these tree lines, making it very difficult for Blue 4 to actually get this ground. And obviously, if Blue 4 does get to this ground, at least give them some losses in while they're doing it. At least have a chance that they're gonna pull back and try and attack somewhere else instead of taking these hills.
Okay, and Barton, what do you think on this?
If they commit to a certain defense, I am of the belief that they should commit to a certain area, one hard point to defend, if they really want to dominate the ground. And you want to try to get isolated hill lines, so hilltops, really. So if you look back to that previous point we were looking at, the southern point, look over to, keep going past the point, you see that right there, with loads of rocks on it where your cursor currently is, that one right there. If you build a hard point there and choose to commit to defending this hard point, and you can set up over arcs of fire that intersect, you could really cause a headache for Blue 4 trying to take this hill, because that has very good sight lines down onto the objective itself, or one approach of the objective itself. So having certain hard points and trying to harass those recce teams is a very important thing to do. But realistically, I think Red 4 should do what it's doing right now and is consolidate on the northern hardpoint. As you see, there is also another hill line which is isolated from the rest. If you look at the hard line, you see there, and that's what they're doing. From what I can see, they're building the hardpoints on this hill line with intersecting fields of fire, and the only direction they really need to worry about is that northern approach to try to take this hill line. But if they hold this and don't get too bored or too excitable about peeking all the time from just long range combat, they will still be in the advantage. Could we have a look at that intersection down on the road there? What's down there? There's a smokestack coming from it.
There appears to have been some sort of crash.
A car crash of some form. Bit of scenery,
Yeah,
or
like
distraction,
maybe.
or a potential
perhaps,
trap. You never
yes,
know.
a
I would have
potential
done.
IED.
I would have done 5 IEDs around that pretty much, but I wouldn't have put them on the point. I'd probably put them where you were looking at the point. Nice little rock formation here and there, but you see, the problem is with this northern area, right? You don't have a lot of little chances to do sneaky plans, do devious little plans here and there, because there isn't any buildings anywhere that they're going to run to when they get in contact. Nowhere you can coerce the enemy to go if you're making hard points. So that's one thing they're trading off here, but they are getting a very strong position. Back to you, Morgan.
Yeah, well, thank you. I think that everything's just kicked off. I must have missed the pop-up, but it looks like that people are starting to move around and get into positions here. So let's currently have a look at the 4th IB guys and sort of see where they're positioning themselves. And let's just see what they kind of get up to start with for the first couple of minutes. Currently, we do have this element here of 4th IB men moving up this hill. Can't quite tell which direction this hill is in relation to the hard points that they're going to try and secure.
It's
But
a
it looks
very
like
good reconnaissance point. I think
Yes.
they're adopting the idea of ambushing possible reconnaissance points and then pulling back.
Yeah.
I think that's their original plan. An X-ray is going to be a flanking element, just to harass them behind the enemy.
X-ray is the marksman element, so they may be the ones doing the recon, and then 4IB may be back there as sort of a guarding force, or maybe the recon to bait them into the 4IB. But only time will tell what the actual plan is.
Let's see if Blue Force use any of their helicopters.
Yeah, let's go over and have a look at how the Blue 4 guys are beginning their assault. I don't see anything that looks to be in the air quite yet. Over here, everything looks to be grounded and sort of on foot. And just on the other side of the hill over there to the east looks to be in a similar sort of position. Yeah, nothing quite in the air. So it looks like maybe they aren't quite sure the defenses that the Op 4 guys have. and have decided that they don't want to try risking anything with the helicopters just yet. Maybe they'll try going for something in the future.
I can see the helicopters. If looking at the map, you can see that it appears they may be trying to do some kind of sneaky flanking action around the outside of the map, because the helicopters aren't restricted by the game zone in F&F. The helicopters can go where they want.
Ah, so it does look, if you go back onto the map, that Op4 has decided to kind of spread themselves out and defend both hardpoints. We'll see how that definitely works out for later on. But also, it does seem that Blue 4 has split up their attacking force as well. You've got a ground element going to the south in a convoy, and you've also got these helicopters dropping off units to the south as well. But Blue 4 are definitely taking a cautious approach, which was what we anticipated.
Yeah, definitely. And it looks like Blue 4 have got 3 separate areas of attack that they're going along, as opposed to maybe just the 2, considering there are just the 2 points. They have spread themselves out quite a bit, looking maybe considerably thin. Do you think, Barton, that this is the correct idea to go for on this approach, trying to spread yourselves out along where the enemy is set up and try to poke for a weak point? Or do you think maybe they should consolidate a bit more and then decide on just which areas they're going to strike?
Well, I think what Op4 has decided to do is have quite of a elastic defense here, try to move a lot. They're using their vehicles to try to harass them as they come in. Just trying to bog Blue 4 down in time to buy the time that they need to build further defences, etc. I don't agree with Blue 4's attack strategy here, but that's just my take on it. I think they should have done a concerted thrust and used their numbers on a set piece, but we may later see that. It's all speculation at the moment. But realistically here, they're kind of reacting to what Op4 is doing rather than forcing Op4 to react to what they're doing.
Yeah, I do agree with that. And it does look like there's quite a few rounds going down onto this location, so clearly something's been spotted. I'm not sure if it's the vehicles or just all the movement going on along this hill. And this does look to be, from what we saw before, Blue 4's most condensed area. So the fact that their largest attack force has already been spotted means then that if they try to maneuver and go somewhere else, that Op4 will have eyes on this movement as they try and relocate to elsewhere, which could then give their entire attack away, essentially. What do you think about that, Bart?
Their attack is already getting bogged down. They're popping smoke, they're taking a huge amount of fire, but this is harassing fire. It's not necessarily effective, it's harassing, and that's the point which Op4 is trying to do. They're trying to get as many Blue 4 bogged down in their attack, trying to react to what they're doing, rather than what is going on with Blue 4's attack strategy. And there is a risk in Blue 4's strategy as well, is their element down to the south is now isolated. Their main attacking force is bogged down with this harassing fire, and you can see the 2 elements down to the south of Blue 4 are isolated from the rest of the group. So if they get into trouble, they have nothing but themselves to rely on.
Yeah, I see. I see what you mean there with that. If we can then have a look very quickly to see if Blue 4 had any casualties given the barrage of fire. Like you said, it wasn't attempted to be very effective, the fire, but you never know if it took out anybody in particular, and if so, that could have, been significant in terms of the numbers advantage that Blue 4 do have.
As of now, they don't have any.
None. Okay, so thank you for confirming there. So nothing was lost, but they did expend a considerable amount of ammunition. We saw many smokes go down, as you mentioned, Barton, and it does look like they are beginning to move into this south direction. I don't know if that's to back up the Blue 4 elements that you mentioned beforehand, or if it's just because they've been spotted there trying to relocate. What do you think on that, Barton?
I'm not really sure what Blue Force trying to do at the moment, from my take as far as. They are getting bogged down. But they may be trying to maneuver around this element that's starting to do this harassing fire and actually punish them for it. Because you can see they're starting to fan out on this northern group. If they can defeat those gents at that point because they get too committed to doing the harassing fire, maybe this will turn out good for Blue Force. Realistically, they're taking a lot of fire and exchanging fire, but off the objective here. And one thing I'd love to see Blue 4 do is be devious. You know, I'm all about being devious, Morgan. So what they could do, the helicopters, they could land north of the point and fly over to try to bait some of the Op4 to investigate if there's any enemies coming that direction and give false impressions of where they're actually attacking from.
Yeah, and on our screens at the moment, we can see the Blue 4 guys starting to push down this western side. Maybe, well, we know that they've spotted this Op4 just on the hill underneath us now. So maybe they are, trying to assault this location very quickly. Maybe they believe that as they moved majority of their elements to the south, and that they believe they were spotted in doing so, perhaps that was a feint all along, and they were just holding back with all these elements here, ready to assault by baiting all of the majority of Op4's focus down to the south. Eason, what do you think's going on here?
Well, Op4 really do have to be careful not to get drawn into a fight in isolated groups, because they don't have the numbers to compete with a large front with Blue 4. But I think that's what Blue 4's trying to do. They're trying to expand the front, use their numbers to try to stretch the defense here. And Op4 just needs not to buy into it. If they feel like they're getting out, they should pull back and then engage again from a new position. But that takes quite a lot of discipline in order to recognize when you should pull back and when you should stay in your place and carry on fighting. And that discipline will definitely help Op4 here.
One thing I'm noticing as well is looking at the Blue 4 elements. They are really incapable of supporting each other with fire. Because they've decided to take the low ground, they're going to be struggling to actually hit targets. So, for example, if Bravo 2 is engaging Op4A2, Delta won't actually be able to really help them out there because they're on the wrong side of the hill. Whereas if you look at the Op4 placement, every single element has another element which is actually able to support it with fire or otherwise, which should give Op4 a bit of an edge when it comes to actually holding these points.
Yeah, very good point. I agree with your points on that. If we look at the cache towards the south, where the Blue 4 were starting to push up, have they made much progress, or have they even been spotted yet? I don't see many tracers going down in this location.
When I took a look at the map earlier, the Alpha element up there has been spotted by the Op4 element, but down here, this Charlie and HQ elements haven't actually been spotted by Op4 Delta, so this could lead to tunnel vision on them, and then these guys coming right around the back and heading up this hill and hitting them.
Yeah, I think the attack strategy for that southern point is looking good for Blue 4. But bear in mind, they do have to push through a lot of open ground to get to the hard point. Now, that Op4 set up, but they've abandoned all their vehicles. So they can't close that distance very quickly, and they've lost the capability to smash through their defenses and rip people out of housing with the 50 cals.
Yeah, I think you're right there with how Blue 4 attack is. It does look to be maybe tactically more successful from before everything's executed anyway than the northern side.
Hang on. I may have just seen something wrong, but is there a flank going on to some Blue 4 forces to the south? Can we check that map?
Hang on. You mean up here?
Yep.
Yeah.
So it looks like they're getting behind Blue 4 on the northern side of their point. Yeah. So that's going to be very interesting to see if they buy in, or they've actually been spotted now. So that's actually bogged down that flank. But that's very good eyes. Oh no, have they been spotted? Do you think they're going to spot them, Morgan?
The Blue 4 guys on the hill, they have been spotted. They're drawing quite a lot of trace of fire at the moment. So, and it does look like they're slightly returning fire as well. We can see some members of the Op 4 just to the west there that do have that cross medical symbol there, that they are currently unconscious at least. But these Blue 4 guys are definitely drawing quite a bit of fire from at least 3+ elements. And as this Alpha 1 unit is rushing down very quickly, they're not quite sure what they're hoping to achieve. I think they maybe thought that they did a bit more damage, but it looks, if we can zoom in a bit on this fight, it looks like it's not going terribly for Blue 4 here.
Yeah, it looks like Blue 4 may have overwhelmed Op 4 here.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think Op 4 were ready for that. It's just down to this. No, that's it. They've taken that position completely. I believe they only lost one member of that element there, and they took out a reasonable size from Op 4. They absolutely crushed them there with that crazy rush in their vehicle.
That was very impressive. Actually, that was a high risk, high reward strategy right there. But they used the fact that the Op 4 are fighting with 5.45, which doesn't have a huge amount of stopping power. Neither does their rifles, bear in mind. But they've got the Humvee. They can close that distance and overwhelm them quickly, because Op 4 may panic and may not be able to communicate that to the other people that are there. And they definitely used that speed of the Humvee to get in close distance and win a very good situation for Blue 4. Because Op 4, they can't afford to lose guys in small amounts. But you see, this is what's happening. And it's, it's good amount harassing here, but you saw that they were digging in, right? They were digging in those positions. And realistically, they should be quite elastic and trying to move quite a lot. What do you think about that, Morgan?
No, I think you're definitely right there. And yeah, considering that we just saw Blue 4 absolutely decimate one element there from Op 4, points that you're making about Op 4 needing to be sort of more elastic and less set in stone with the movements that they're making. I completely agree there. As we can see, it hasn't seemed to pay off so well with some of the elements. They've dug in situations and they've gone, right, we are going to defend this area, and they are seeming to be taken or picked apart quite significantly. This Alpha 2 element that we see on the left of our screens, they've held on quite well with the forces that they've had to deal with, at least 3 elements going on there. But along the rest of the map, it does look like Op 4 maybe being picked apart a little bit. There's just numbers dotted around in very small groups, like you mentioned. You didn't want to see Op 4 too isolated individually with each other. You thought that they should try and solidify an area and keep it tight and compact. So given how it's unfolded and how Op 4 just have so many different elements dotted around, what do you think that they should be trying to do at this moment? Should they all maybe try and withdraw, give up a few hundred meters of hill and land? Or should they maybe all just try and relocate to specific areas on the map?
I personally think that what they're doing right now is advisable. You see that other groups aren't building trenches, they're moving. They're free to move, and they've got good, clear arcs of fire. I think carrying on to do what they're doing right now is ideal. But it looks like on the northern approach, they haven't set up many hardpoints from that northern approach. Blue 4's had good reconnaissance here, and they've set up on this hill line and now attacking from this hill line. And they may overwhelm that northern hardpoint as they're doing with the southern hardpoint of a coordinated attack. They've covered the ground, and now they're breaking into the urban area around the southern hardpoint. And this is definitely turning into be a very interesting fight, and it's looking like it's going to Blue 4's side quite quickly.
I think you're right. Blue 4 have definitely taken this southern area. Go ahead, Eason.
It's definitely looking that way. However, with this southern area, with this area down the hill, they've definitely won that. But we're now seeing the Bravo elements, the 4IB guys, laying some fire on the back of Blue 4 Alpha, so they may actually end up panicking and doing something wrong or taking a lot of losses while taking this area. So it is still up in the air who will win the entire game.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely. I think that's a key point to make as well, that just because Blue 4 may take over this point, there's still a lot of game left to go, and there are quite a lot of elements of Op 4 dotted around the hills, and they are able to, get good firing arcs that sort of cross each other and provide support where it's needed and when it's needed. But yeah, if we can look back to the southern hardpoint here, sort of see just how Blue 4 are beginning to assault, because it does look like they've started to breach some of the buildings within this compound here. There's one guy who's gone down at the entrance to the building. So are Blue 4 trying to assault it directly, or are they more trying to circle it? I can't quite tell with my limited tactical knowledge what is what is happening here. So Barton, take it away for me.
Well,
if you want to take this one.
Yeah, I'll take this one, thank you. With what's going on right now, you see the southern elements got quite complacent with this Blue 4 attack. Now they're advancing to move up, but that it has given Op 4 time to react to this concerted effort here, and allowed, as Eason has said, a flanking element like 4B to start harassing that northern attack group, which has led to some casualties Blue 4 didn't need to take. If they maintain the momentum throughout this urban attack, which is very key for these close range engagements, then they would have been able to take it with less casualties. But realistically, this is still a Blue 4 win. We can chalk up another one for Blue 4 because they're taking this point, and now they probably have a good idea of where that flanking element is coming from. The way Op 4 can turn this round is by setting up a trap in that building right there. Having the last person there below it as people breaching in is a very key thing to do. So it's going to be very interesting to see if these small little traps Op 4 are set, or may not have set, can actually pay off in the long run. But realistically, oh yeah, go ahead, Eason.
Yeah, it looks like just as you were mentioning blowing up the building, the amount of grenades going off in that building has actually caused it to collapse, and I think that killed all the remaining Op 4 as well as a couple of Blue 4 there. So a little bit of a Pyrrhic victory there for Blue 4.
Exactly. One thing Blue 4 can be quite creative with is concentrating their grenades, particularly the squad leaders. If you get multiple squad leader elements and team leader elements concerting their GLs on one building, they can take out that building. From last week, I was firing all my GLs at this rough building where a fire team was at on the other team, and it got to a damaged indication, which means 2 or 3 more GLs would have destroyed it. So if you concentrate that fire, you can definitely take out hard points. Op 4 could have done very well.
Yeah, I think you're right on that one, definitely. And it does look as Blue 4 have now taken that southern cache. I don't quite see if it's detonated just yet. I don't believe it has. And we do have some of the Bravo elements just pushing down the hill, 4th IB guys, who were laying some harassment down onto the backs of these Blue 4. Does it look like Op 4 are trying to maybe retake this area, even though the cache has been given up?
To me, it's starting to look like they're trying to contain it more than retake it. So obviously they've lost this area of the field, so now they're digging in some Bravo elements, just waiting for Blue 4 to start making their move on the next objective, and then they can lay some fire on, try and stop them, slow them down, while the rest of Op 4, which has been doing quite well, they've taken very few losses, and I think Blue 4 seems to have lost a couple of elements on this side of the fight. If these Bravo elements can delay this attack for long enough, then these elements can deal with the enemy and then shift over and get set up, ready for the next group.
Yeah, and hopefully for Op 4's sake that they're able to make enough of a dent there and at least stop the or contain those Blue 4 elements down there, was the words you used. And I think that's very accurate for that. But Blue 4 still do have their helicopter units. They could potentially go in for an extraction and then do a rapid redeployment to this area.
I think that is looking like exactly what they're doing, because I think that helicopter just dropped off the Blue 4 command element, and he seems to be scouting out the area, getting an idea of where Op4 is, and seeing if the area is actually suitable for a full-on deployment of a redeployment of the forces from the other weapons cache, which is now destroyed.
Yeah, I can see there it has gone down, and the Op4 potentially are pushing back. Maybe they have had word that the command element was placed down, because they are seeming to be sort of re-maneuvering themselves, maybe to get within the urbanized area and sort of do some more combat-oriented action within those built-up areas where numbers are a bit difficult to get advantages on. But the rest of the map, Op4 are still holding relatively well. Blue 4 have made ground. They've managed to take the top of this hill there just in front of us, but yeah, it's still going quite slowly, and there's still plenty of time for Blue 4 to make their moves. But yeah, there we go. Op4 do it to be kind of getting set up in some buildings, at least for the time being, ready to spark an attack, or at least react to what the Southern Blue 4 element are working.
Absolutely. With the attack on the south, they could have lost some of their command personnel, Blue 4, which loses quite a lot of organisation. So they need that if they're an attacking force. They need the organisation, the attack. And I think it's going to be quite important for Blue 4 to actually withdraw from the attack to the south, withdraw from it, reorganise, and make another concerted effort on the north. Could we see what's happening with that northern hill line of the other hard point? See how Blue 4 are making ground on there, or if they've been wiped out, trying to push those hard points?
It does look like they've got a single Bravo element left here. I think the other one got completely wiped out, but they're not currently taking fire, so I think Op4 may think that they have taken too many losses to be effective. Well, it looks like one element of Op4 up here has actually seen them. I saw some traces come flying down.
It does look that their attack on the north has become bogged down, and Op4 is holding quite well. It's because of that overlapping field of fire that we've got one on each hill line, as you were saying earlier, Eason, and Blue 4 not being able to help each other because they're on different sets of valleys. And that's really bogged down that attack to the north. They kind of overcommitted there, Blue 4, and as one attack's gone well, the other area, which had more Op4 commitment, has done quite a lot of damage to Blue 4's capabilities. That I would have said, wait till the southern attack goes well and make that concerted effort, and then choose the second area. This is what happens if you try to commit to all the areas at the same time. You can be, again, defeated in detail and lose quite a lot of your capability to an inferior force sometimes. What about you, Morgan? What do you think can bring this back for Op4? Because as far as I'm aware, Blue 4 still have the advantage here. What do you think Op4 could do to kind of weed it back and bring it back to their advantage?
Well, I think the points that you were making about needing to sort of solidify their emplacement, definitely the way that I would go about doing this. I think, unfortunately, that they lost the southern cache relatively early on will impact them quite significantly. This does give Blue 4 plenty of time to now redeploy quite nicely to assault the southern side of the northern cache. And as we can see just in front of us now, there is some combat where they have found the command element, or maybe they haven't found the command element, or have they? They know he's somewhere around here.
Yeah, they're looking for him.
Oh, they're on the hunt.
Looking for him.
They're out for blood here.
Hasn't been quite found just yet, but they know he's somewhere in the area.
Yes, it definitely
What's going through his mind at the moment? He's got all his troops to lead, and he's hiding behind a rock from 2 Op4. Well, he must be quite scared.
He's been spotted.
Oh no!
There we go. He's taking shots, but everything seems to go just wide. But Stark must have called that out now. So
yeah, they will be closing on him shortly.
They all know where he is. So this does, though, considering that Op4 have a significant amount over here, a fire team by the looks of it,
yeah,
they're drawing significant probably communications as well as manpower, and this does give them the chance to, well, to maybe give some backup to this command element as he does just go down there, unfortunately. And I believe they've just confirmed that the kill has been made.
Yeah.
But yeah, given that time, I wonder if Blue 4 could maybe have done more with the distraction that was being run there. I know it wasn't a significant amount of Op 4 troops who were involved, but it doesn't look like they maybe made best of that situation. And obviously losing your command, there are very few bests you could take away there.
One thing I have noticed in FNF is that the command elements are always extremely into getting stuck in. They like to actually join the fight, which often severs the communication very early on because they don't have any overall command. You end up with infighting between the platoons because there's no one to overrule because the commander's obviously gotten lost, which may be a big advantage that Op 4 has here because their command elements just mainly commanding from this bunker back here, staying safe. But as I say that, the Platoon 2 of Blue 4 HQ has just been dropped on the hill, and it looks like they're moving in on the 4IB guys that just took out the command.
Have Op 4 spotted this? I don't think they have. I think, or maybe Niles spotted it now.
That's a classic of the first person there. They'll be right next to each other. They just can't see each other.
Oh,
there
it's
we
quite
go.
tense
Let's
here.
go down, but
Let's start dropping in two. One, sorry, not two. But he's
From
only
what-
unconscious, so he could get back up.
From what I've seen, to the northern hardpoint, Blue 4 is starting to take the eastern hill line, which will be very key on their attack to the northern hardpoint. This engagement here, I see as it's a waste of Blue 4's resources here. They're attacking an unknown force off the point, and I think they were trying to save their commander realistically, but it didn't really go to plan. So how's that firefight still undertaking? That's the one where the commander died from Blue 4.
It looks like they're all down now, except for one guy who's run off on his own. Poor Fred.
Oh, Freddy. What do you think's going through Freddy? He's lost all his friends. It's just,
Looks of
goodness
it,
me.
he's saying, "I want out" right now.
Yeah.
I want out.
He is one of the regulars of
Why did I sign
FNF.
up? Why did I sign up? I'm just trying to fight AI here. Why can I just fight AI? Poor Fred.
Yeah, and as Fred does pull away, I don't know. I didn't see quite how he was able to get into that position. I'm going to assume the helicopter dropped him off.
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming. I didn't see it, but I'm assuming
Yeah,
they got
in that
dropped.
case, I wonder if the helicopter will come back to either pick him up or maybe reinforce him. But it doesn't look quite so effective or good use of Blue Force time as you mentioned before, Barton, where I believe out of all of that, Op 4 only lost one member, whereas, wait a minute, what's going on right in front of our eyes? There we go. He did finally take the shot. I'm not quite sure what took him so long to take the
That's
shot.
just
Maybe
disrespectful.
no, he was checking there. But he's moved in and he's taken that element.
Can't wait to find out who that
Oh my, that was.
That was
that's
Corporal
disrespectful.
C. Johansson from the 1RW.
That was cruel. That was purely cruel. But now you're seeing one of the problems of spreading your forces out quite wide. Now they got bogged down in their northern attack, and instead of withdrawing and knowing when to withdraw, they are being flanked, as we've just seen, and having cruelty done upon them.
I still
Realistically,
don't know what's going on with the Platoon 1 HQ and Golf 4, Blue 4 as well. They seem to just be setting up camp, despite the fact that they could be better used if they redeployed very quickly. Sorry to interrupt you there.
Well, I think the fact that you mentioned that, though, even though you're correct in that way, it could be also the fact that they have now lost their command element. They aren't sure what's going on the rest of the map, and that can be a significant part, surely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the loss of command generally in FNF it just leads to squad leaders and fireteam leaders ending up all doing separate things. But usually, I say usually, hopefully they'll end up sort of not non-verbally communicating, but having the same idea because it's the most logical thing to do.
Right.
as I say this, it appears the Gulf element from Blue 4 is trying to sneak up behind the cache here. Because in the end, it doesn't matter how well Op 4 hold everywhere else. If Blue 4 gets that cache and they've got the cache, it could take one guy with an RPG, sprints in there, blows himself up, and the game could be over.
Absolutely. You got to remember it's about the points, not about the kills. And it looks like Blue 4 have said, you know what, let's just rush it. They're everywhere. They're probably spread as thin as we are. Let's see if they're actually defending the point.
As we say that, PKM from the 4IB element is just Dryden, that is, just wiped out that vehicle, and now it's doing circles.
Goodness me, that was a good burst from Dryden there. Very good.
Yeah. Just left Mullen alone with everyone from his vehicle been completely knocked out.
That's the problem with. I would have personally approached on foot there to try to keep as low profile as possible and making that break into that urban building right there, which I believe they're doing now with the helicopter.
Yeah.
They're going to try to get into that building, and we'll see how Opful reacts to that, definitely, because they have noticed the helicopter. I don't think it's been unnoticed, but realistically, that will bring a lot of attention down there. See if Blue 4 can actually capitalize that from another direction. But if they're just doing isolated attacks, they're just putting small amount of force with a larger force, and that they're supposed to be coming with larger numbers to do an attack. So they're just going to get defeated in detail again and again, and they're going to lose their men and lose their numbers advantage.
And as we say that, Dryden knocks out one of these guys, puts him unconscious, and kills another. Dryden going ham with that MG.
It's very effective position, and he's but you can see the group to the north is also capitalizing all this attention to the south. They're starting to break into the hard point set on that hill line to the north. And I'm not too sure where the rest of Blue 4 is now, but they need to get here. They do need to get here. This is the deciding firefight here.
It does look like
say
Blue
that
4 are pushing along this hill line. They've taken most of the control from this Alpha 2 element of Op 4, who were positioned in that bunker. I don't know if they spread themselves out a bit too thin along the woodland. They haven't lost anybody yet by the looks of it, just maybe unconscious. So that's always something they can watch out. If people behind them all of a sudden wake up, then these things can turn entire Friday night fights rounds, as we've seen in the past.
It looks like Op 4 has now taken the building, which Blue 4 should have been pushing towards. But you've still got two different attack venues Blue 4 can capitalize on, although they haven't cleared the hills, so their flanks are not secured. So they're just trying to rush it, high risk, but it's very hard to get a reward from this situation. You see there's an isolated Blue 4 group to the south there as well. They're trying to push up. They'll see if they'll catch that other Op 4 group off guard.
Yes, it does seem that way. One thing I have started to notice, though, Red 4 is taking a lot of casualties around this area. They have lost most of their alpha elements, and they're now starting to lose the objective. So, if there was actually still communication, which there probably isn't, because I'm pretty sure the platoon elements are down, if I was the commander here, I'd start getting everyone to start focusing fire on this area to try and keep everything together here. Because there are currently, the commander just dropped. There's only 5 people defending this, and there's at least 6 or 7 Blue 4 which are going to be trying to move in on that area, and may just try and bypass these forces if they can.
One of the benefits of the strategy of the structure of a squad for British is you can set up 3 IC, 4 IC, 5 IC quite easily, because you don't have to separate them as a different element similar to what an American squad would be. Obviously, you can have 3 IC, 4 IC in the American structure, but it's a lot more organization you need to do to make sure that runs effectively. And it's going to be very key here that if they have set up those IC positions, 3 IC, 4 IC, which means they're next in the chain of command in case someone dies or gets their face blown off, which is the same thing. But realistically, that will definitely help from an attacking perspective and defending perspective, and can change a night.
As you're saying this, I think it looks like Brooke may have made the decision to retreat everyone back to the main area.
It's a good call, because looking what's coming after him.
Yeah.
Run!
Meanwhile, he's just stuck up here with Brooke and Neil. Try to do some flanking business. Maybe try and steal that vehicle.
Absolutely. Noise discipline is going to be important here.
Oh,
See if they can flank
take
here.
a shot. They look like they've been called out.
Oh, and they just ran towards a turret, which opened up on them. Let's see what happened there.
They did drop the turret gunner. Someone else has gotten on.
Oh. Don't be stingy with your bullets here.
He's pulled
I
out
think he
his
peeked up and realised he was out.
shoulder launcher. Will he be able to take the shot? I don't quite think. Maybe he will. They've got eyes on where it's gone now. So will they be able to get the shot away?
Yeah, right in the rear. That's gone.
Oh,
Excellent shot by Neil there.
brilliant. It may not be the case because it is a heat projectile, and that's just going into an open compartment. Oh no, it's gone.
You're gone.
It's unusable now.
It is completely gone.
Yeah, I don't think ArmA's quite that stingy with rockets. Generally in FNF, if a rocket hits something, it hits it and it blows up.
Absolutely. That's definitely going to bog down that southern thrust from Blue 4, and so the attacking forces will not have reinforcements from their fellow men anytime soon.
Yeah, it does look like Neil was lost there as well. So Brooke on his lonesome, holding up the reinforcements from the south as best as he can. I wonder how successful this will be for him. All this escape from Tarkov practice paying off right now, I guess. And we'll see just what he's able to get to. His grenade went out. It doesn't seem to have missed the mark just too much. Obviously, it wasn't exactly on target there, but not too far away. He knows roughly the positions of all the enemies approaching him. His sixth sense is going off right now. I can tell he knows someone is nearby, but not able to just see where this man who's hiding in this bush here is exactly.
It's definitely something interesting. I think the game has swung to up 4 now.
Yeah, it definitely has. Blue 4 only has 10 minutes to attack, and I don't see what they're able to attack with at this point.
Yeah, they've lost most of their assets, and now they're bogged down to individual groups.
Oh, and Brooke just traded with one of the Finns there. I think it was Yankski Finn, or however it's pronounced.
The trade's all right.
Just butchered that. Yeah, hopefully he can wake up because he's only unconscious, and FNF only runs basic medical, so you are very likely to wake back up after you go unconscious, from what I've experienced.
Absolutely. Having that ace medical in a firefight is definitely quite a challenge to deal with compared to the standard medical armor he comes with. Ace medical is a lot more in depth and builds a lot of realism into it. But in a firefight like this, PvP, you're gonna be walking around injured most of the time. So
yeah,
may as well be a blood fountain most of the time.
One thing I am grateful for is the fact they have broken limbs disabled. So long as you put a bandage on it, you can walk.
Yeah. Absolutely, but you can see all the isolated attack directions have now become outflanked and eliminated by Op4, and Op4 got them to try to commit to the attack and then brought it back in, all their elements from all the hills, and completely encircled these divisions. And I think Op4's strategy here was very good for the northern group. The southern group was a very good attack by Blue 4, but the building blew up. So that may have taken out quite a lot of their command element who got into the fray, etc., etc.
Yeah, so one thing that is very much something that you need to be doing in FNF is considering the risk versus reward of sending your small command element into a full-on firefight.
Yeah.
And one big thing that I think has played into this is the decision by the 4IB, Bravo, to actually pull back here, because they've got now the men on the point that could stop just the occasional, well, not the occasional, but a single man running up with an RPG and just blowing up that objective. By having this force of numbers here, it will probably change things to the right way for Op4, as we reached 8 minutes 20 on the timer.
Realistically, the only way Blue 4 can come out on this on top is a devious play. And they need to run in along the beach, nice beachside property, get in, find the cache, and then sacrifice yourself to get that cache.
Yeah, it's definitely a very suicidal play, but it's the only one that can really be made at this point by Blue 4.
The southern group that got attacked by Brooke and the R4B lot, Now they're bogged down as well because they don't know they've eliminated all the op 4 and they've lost their numbers, they've lost their vehicle, and now they're attacking a position which has got more numbers than them. So the odds are definitely stacked against Blue 4 here. In addition, they've got a nice little bit of open ground to cover, so there's no danger in that at all. But realistically,
one thing I've noticed that I've flown around, there is only one Blue 4 that currently has AT, which could destroy that cache, and that is Reaper Beat. And he is the closest one to the cache at the moment. So while it's very unlikely, he may be able to do something here.
Let's follow him closely, see what he does. He may try to shoot, and that'll just end the game right there. If he shoots, if he tries to shoot, that'll give away his position, and that'll be not ideal. He needs to try to sneak in, maybe put on a British accent to try to get in.
Yeah.
And then try to get through, and say, hey, I'm definitely not Blue 4. Please, can I come to your cache and get some ammo? That's what I need to do, get some ammo. But yeah, it's going to be very hard. It's going to be very audacious if they do that. But
one thing I have noticed as well is he is carrying an AK at the moment, which could give him an advantage because the ID on that weapon, as it fires, will sound the same as every other weapon that's firing around the Op 4 players here.
So it's a disguise play. All right, this is going to be interesting.
Yeah. Only audio, though. He still has to wear his Blue 4 kit since it's against the rules to steal uniforms.
Absolutely. But if he gets a vest, maybe that will cover up enough of his uniform to realise maybe they're different. Or does the vest count as part of the uniform?
I'm not quite sure on that role. I believe it does not. I think it's helmet and uniform, but we'll have to double check that later on.
And realistically, there is no benefit of taking someone else's vest because all the armor levels from Friday Night Fight to make balancing great is they're all equal. Even though on base game they may have different stats, on the server they are all equal armor levels. So the only thing that really is different is the armaments.
I think Reaper Beat here, in his panic, because he's basically alone, he's got none of his element left, his trigger discipline's just gone out the window. He's seeing people, he's shooting them, and that's giving his position away.
Oh no.
He has, however, racked up another kill, bringing it up to 2 for him.
Reaper Beat.
Yeah,
now the grenades are coming.
Oh. Shots are coming in. Just a question, I'm not sure if you guys would know the answer, but could not the helicopter just kamikaze it into the cache and end it that way? Or is it not set up to be happening quite like that?
I don't believe using vehicles is within the server rules there as part of the things, but it would be interesting.
Yeah, that might be the only plan they've got left at this point. Reaper Beat can't just pull it off, but he's very close to pulling it off as well, I have to say.
Reaper Beat has seemed to turn into a blood fountain. Is trying to deal with his ace medical at the moment. Go ahead, Eason.
You do have to keep in mind, though, they don't know where the cache is exactly. They just have an area. They know it's somewhere in this compound, but he doesn't know that it's there.
Right.
It's right there. Another thing that's just happened is G-Legs has just slammed his helicopter in the ground, but he's now with Reaper, so he has a bit of a friend there.
So you're correct there, Morgan. That was one of their plays they've got left. It definitely hasn't send up any signal smoke of where they're coming from, though. Absolutely not.
No, of course not. But let's see how they're able to pull out just now. So,
Trident goes down.
And here we are. There's another Blue 4 element very close. So they are getting closer, and there's still time to go here. How much long do we have? Just under 4 minutes left for Blue 4 to pull this off. It's definitely possible. The numbers are close, so a numbers advantage at this point may not be that significant for the defenders, even though they are ahead.
Absolutely.
They're able to take off a couple of guys, and if they're able to take off maybe just a couple more, as unfortunately Edwin gets taken out by the element on the hill. But smoke has been popped. Blue 4 are moving up through the smoke. If they're able to get eyes, then this could be it. But it does look like Stark, who always seems to be alive at the end of these things, is sat on the cache himself, waiting for it to.
I don't know what that means about Stark. He may be good at the game, or he may just be a coward. But that's I think that's down for the audience to decide.
No. Stark used to be a Zeuser. He used to be a very good Zeuser. He joined a different element within the unit, the tank people. I think there's some fancy name called One Yorks, I believe. But yeah, he's part of that, and he's a Zeus, so he may do something devious. You never know. But all they need to do from Bluefield, they don't need to clear the cache. They just need to fire a rocket at it. So,
and they are within about 10 meters of it.
If Reaper Beat realizes that's the cache and can get his rocket on it, that is the game.
I don't think I've seen Reaper Beat here before, so he may need some direction from G-Legs in terms of saying that's the cache.
Yeah,
5 meters.
We have eyes on it. They have
Reaper Beat.
seen it.
Oh, he goes down.
Oh,
only unconscious, but at this point, it's as good as dead.
He could get back up,
and he gets flanked by Stark and Swallow. Stark getting killed in the trade there because of the old ArmA 3 desync.
But Reaper Beat just woke up. If he realizes that is the cache, this could be all it for Blue 4. And time is ticking away.
Yeah.
Switch to his rocket and stand up, and that's it.
That's it. That would have been
I'm sure he'll be hating himself for this one. Swallow gets him.
Does go down, but Falcon there has spotted.
That was very close, wasn't it?
Very close at the end.
That was very close. That was literally just a couple clicks, and it would have been game over. Rockfall there. But for making the right decision of stopping, pushing around, doing these flanks, holding the points, and just fighting into amongst the actual point itself. Personally, what I would have done is I put a vehicle in front of the cache and surround it with vehicles.
The issue with that is that A, it's maybe like the cache a bit obvious, and B, vehicles could explode just as much. And I think even a vehicle explosion next to the cache will cause it to detonate.
So maybe just trenches then, just stopping that direct line of fire going in.
I think there may be rules against that, but it could be worth a try. There's definitely rules against blocking doors in buildings and stuff like that. You can't cut off avenues of approach into buildings with sandbags, which does make creativity a little bit limited for the Zeus players among us.
The amount of times I put a wooden cabinet in front of the door saying, "Nope, you're not allowed through that door. Please come through the door that I've got a machine gun set on. Thank you very much. Appreciate that."
It is looking like that. Blue Force down to their last conscious member. They've got Mr. Edwin Brock just stuck there in that small bit of grass that's covering him while he's unconscious. And then you've got X-Ray Fred, the man who survived the last engagement with 4OB alone, now trying to make his way back over and seeing what he can do. Fred is a seasoned player.
Fred, the person that lost his commander.
Yeah.
He tried to save his commander and lost
and
all
then ran.
And there we have it.
That's game over.
So it was a valiant effort from both sides. Definitely went down to the last couple of minutes there.
Yeah.
There were so many tiny moments that could have flipped everything. But this is how it's gone down. Op4 do emerge victorious with some hero plays from both sides at various different points. We have the one that stands out to me significantly is Brooke and Neil taking on
the
mechanized element just towards the end there. That was, I think, probably what turned it, because it held up the entire reinforcement wave coming in, and they were able to take down so many men towards that end. I think they get my MVP of the match goes out to Brooke and Neil on that. Congratulations, gentlemen. That was very well played.
Yeah, very well played. Overall, that was one of the best games I've seen in a while.
Absolutely.
Great play from both sides.
It was to and fro the entire time. Bluefall had a clear advantage, with that vehicle rush. That was my favourite moment, where they literally just rushed with the vehicle and took that hard point, because Opford decided to dig in when they should have been quite elastic, in my opinion. So that was a very good play, and that definitely put the advantage to Bluefall quite solidly. And just, I think, the loss of organisation and command structures definitely helped Opford win there. But that was a very good game. I agree completely with Eason. That was a very good round and match. Very good.
Yeah, definitely. And in the chat, some people are calling out Dryden as well for his setting up with his Jimpy and laying down those rounds and getting.
That was devastating. That was generally devastating.
Yeah, definitely.
It's amazing how much one good machine gunner can do. It's just about getting those rounds down. You don't have to necessarily hit the enemy, but their stones start shitting themselves as soon as you get all that fire on them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely there. And so before we then go to a quick break, then shall we Barton, I'll push this to you first then. Can you give a breakdown of what we just watched for all those who are just tuning in now or who are participating and didn't see the overall match take place?
Right. So the general premise and the objectives of the match was Blue 4 attacking and Op 4 defending, with Op 4 having less numbers than Blue 4. Realistically, what happened was you saw from both teams a large spread of their units and a lot of small firefights throughout. Then you saw Blue 4 take the southern point with a concerted effort, but some of the Op 4 elements started to fold in and pick off certain elements from Blue 4, that being the command. After the southern hardpoint was taken and destroyed by Blue 4, they had lost quite a lot of their command structure, and these small firefights kept going on, and losses totaled up and then swayed to Op 4's advantage because there was no chance to no chance to organize a concerted effort on that northern hardpoint. So you just saw Blue 4 trickle in and get surrounded and shot from different angles. It was a very risky play for Op 4 to spread their units as they did, as we saw that there were some instances where they got rushed down and eliminated, which they can't afford if they're the defending team. But realistically, you saw them trickling at the end and Blue 4 being eliminated by numbers.
Yep, very eloquently put there. And then Eason, just before we head off, then final question for you at the moment. What do you think Blue 4 should have done differently? You could pick a specific point, or you can pick in general. What do you think they should have done differently to achieve that victory? And I won't allow you to say that man at the end there, standing up, pulling out his rocket and shooting about 5 feet in front of him. You're not allowed to pick that one.
Generally, with Blue, when you're on attack, again, as Barton said before, defeating detail is an extremely good tactic when it comes to these games where there's different sizes. And one thing that Blue 4 definitely has an advantage in is that they have the more numbers. It doesn't matter where they attack. They will always outnumber the enemy at least 3-1 if they attack, go all in on one area. Of course, when I say going all in, I don't mean sending everyone in, having some elements supporting, watching out for flanks, but it's down to Blue 4. They have to attack one area. You can't really spread your forces out like that, otherwise you're just going to get slowly taken down, because even though Red 4 has less numbers, they're dug in, they're spread out, they can shoot you from all angles, and there's not really much you can do about it if you're so spread out. Whereas if you attack en masse, you have that sheer force of numbers that just gives you the power to send everyone in